Yes, you're clear.
Okay, great. So, welcome everyone. A very good evening to you all, and welcome to the seventh episode of our soft skills series, um, which is a project by the Global Shapers Community, Kano Hub, designed specifically to rub minds to discuss about soft skills, some soft skills topics. And for those of you that have been here for some time now, in this session we go through we go through some topics to be taken. We go through some topics taken by our moderators, by our facilitators, select facilitators from the hub and from outside the hub. We've had 6 sessions so far out of the 12 that we're supposed to, and this is the seventh. Today, we'll be discussing emotional and social intelligence. And our topic of discussion today is one that I really like a lot personally. I am a student of emotional intelligence, especially how its application leads to a balanced and happy life. It is said that the more we can understand our emotions and the emotions of those around us, the better we can resolve issues early and live happier lives. The application of emotional intelligence and social intelligence cuts across different sectors and endeavors, human endeavors, within the family, in the workplace, dealing with friends and associates, and even associated with random people in the streets. You find the application of emotional intelligence almost and social intelligence almost everywhere. I'm sure we can all relate to one or two scenarios where maybe on our way to work or on our way to some errand or some place or back from work, we saw a scenario where there's a misunderstanding or exchange of words or even fights, or even fights involving exchange of blows amongst drivers, road users, drivers and other road users, which, resulted from something very, very minor, very minor, something really minor resulted into a full-blown fight between adults and all of that. So these are episodes that could have been, completely avoided if emotional intelligence had been applied at the get-go. So at homes also we see episodes, where yeah, little misunderstandings amongst family members or amongst couples graduate into something really, really big, or amongst friends, or even during sporting events and activities and all of that. So with emotional intelligence, you're able to understand your emotion, your emotional state, and then act accordingly. So emotional intelligence is mostly about response optimization. You can only do little to change, the situations and circumstances happening around you. You can do very little to change them, but you have very much high control of how you react to the situations and to the circumstances that happen around you. And as human beings, we live in a social environment where there are other actors, humans, machines, and so many other things, and their actions, the things they do, affect us in one way or the other. So today we are going to learn so much from Murtala. I'm going to come to the introduction, of course. This is just introducing the topic. So we're going to learn a lot about, emotional intelligence, how it affects our lives, and how we can be socially and, emotionally intelligent. Daniel Goleman, in his book, Emotional Intelligence, which is a very wonderful book, I would encourage everyone here to read. He said emotional intelligence to some extent, determines where or how much one goes in life more than IQ, more than quotient intelligence. So emotional intelligence is really, really important because, it helps you maintain relationships. It helps you maintain good relationships, for that matter, that determine how much or how far, you go in life. So to take the session today, We are hosting, or rather Murtala is hosting us today, and he's going to take us through the session. Murtala Baba is an engineer by training. He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and an MBA with specialization in finance and investment. He has years of experience in oil and gas facility development, and maintenance. He is also the founding curator of Photo Society in Kano, and has passion for equal opportunities. In addition to that, Murtala is also the current curator of Kano Hub of the Global Shapers Community, the group that is organizing this soft skills series. And to add to that, Murtala is a leader and a great team member par excellence. And this is a personal experience I'm narrating. He is a highly dependable person and is committed to service to others. He is a growth and personal development enthusiast and an ardent student of social and emotional intelligence. Murtala, is really nice to have you. And if you are ready, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So, thank you very much, Ahmad, for that generous introduction. I hope I live up to it. I've already started learning a lot about emotional intelligence just by your introduction. So basically, you should be facilitating this session, not me. But nevertheless, I'll try my best to see what I can do to discuss this topic today. I don't know. I would like to know the participants, to know the knowledge of the participants about this topic. I don't know. Have you ever heard about emotional intelligence before this session? If you have, please just type 1 in the chat box. I would like to know whether you have learned about emotional intelligence before. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So a lot of people already know about emotional intelligence. So what about IQ? I know everybody knows IQ, right? IQ, if you know about IQ, before, just type 2. IQ.
Hello, Mr.
IQ. So I'll give you 2 more seconds if anybody knows about IQ.
Sir, can you please tell me what is the topic?
So the topic is emotional intelligence, social and emotional intelligence.
So how do they cooperate with each other?
So we're just starting. So just stay put for the next 30 minutes. I'm sure you'll learn about something about emotional intelligence. So if you know about IQ before, just type 2 in the chat box. So thank you. So basically, yeah. So someone knows a lot about IQ. So as we all know, IQ is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge, right? So I want to do a short poll to see how you understand IQ and emotional intelligence. What do you think is the greatest determining factor for success? Is it more of IQ or more of emotional intelligence? So I'm going to share something on the chat box. So on your mobile phone, just go and type, let me share it. So just go to menti.com. Let me share my screen right now. Have you menti.com? So can everyone see my, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so go to menti.com and type the code you see above here. That's 2071079 and answer the question, what determines success? So you can just read,
Please,
move the
can you
slider.
please send the link?
Yeah, the link is there in the chat box, www.menti.com.
I can see nothing in the chat box. Can you please resend it?
Okay, let me resend it. Yeah, someone has shared.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So you can feel free to choose based on, strongly disagree to strongly disagree. Of course, strongly disagree is 0, and then from 1 to 5, strongly agree. So you can move the slider. What do you think is the greatest determining factor for success? Is it emotional intelligence or is it your IQ? Wow, I've started seeing uh, votes coming in. I'll give you about 2 minutes to vote, and then we can move from there. So about 3 people have voted. We have about 15 people here, so still going. 6. Still going. 1 minute to go.
Excuse me, Murtala, I think we need a code to enter the Mentimeter, right?
Yeah, yes. So the code is at the top of the screen, 2071079. So just type www.menti.com and then vote. So we have about 7 votes. That's 7 out of 14 participants. Okay, so I think we already know a lot about emotional intelligence because I can see that majority of the votes uh, uh, think that emotional intelligence is one of the greatest determining factor of success, which is good. So thank you very much for those that were able to vote. Now, emotional intelligence is relatively a new concept, right? So it started gaining popularity about 20 years ago after the famous Daniel Goleman published his first book about emotional intelligence in 1995. And shortly after that, the University of Yale went ahead to also publish a report which shows that emotional intelligence is one of the leading factors that determines success. So right from there, the topic now started gaining a lot of popularity, and a lot of people started seeking knowledge about emotional intelligence. So without wasting much of our time, let me start the presentation. I'm going to share my screen in a bit. Yes, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes. So
Yes.
so the content of this session is going to focus on emotions, how our emotions function, what influences emotions, and then emotional intelligence, then the dimensions of emotional intelligence, and going to know how we can improve our emotional intelligence. So at the end of this lecture, we're going to know how we can, if we have low emotional intelligence, we'll know how to improve on our emotional intelligence, which will eventually lead us to success. So what are emotions? So generally, emotions are natural, instinctive state of mind that is derived from one's circumstances. Yeah, for example, your mood, your relationship with others, and the rest. So basically, emotions are survival instincts, which happens in reaction to an event in order to probably motivate you to, take action in order to survive. So let me just give you a scenario. For example, um, you visit a zoo. When you go to the zoo, you'll be excited to see a lion, right? So you look for the lion's cage. You go, and of course, when you see the lion, you'll be happy. So that's an emotion. You're looking for a lion and you're happy to see a lion. So what happens if you suddenly realize that the lion's cage is left open? What are you going to do? What is going to suddenly come into your mind? Can you type what will happen in the chat box? I'm not seeing. Can I see the chat box? What's happening? What are you going to do immediately when you realize that the lions, you panic, you fear, right? Yes. So, of course, that's an emotion. After knowing that the lion's cage is left open, fear will go through you. You feel fear, and then you will want to run to safety. So that's instinctive. You feel the fear as part of your emotion. Sorry.
Hi, Murtala.
Yeah.
Are you back? Yeah.
Yes, I'm back. I lost connection. So let me quickly continue sharing. Yes. Can you see my screen? Hello, can you see my screen? Hello? Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was saying that you feel, you run to safety, right? As a result of the fear. Hello?
Yeah, it's correct.
Yeah, we can hear you. But your slideshow is not very big.
Okay. So just a second, I'm coming. Now can you see my screen?
That's better. Oh yes.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was describing the fear of knowing that the lion's cage is open, right? So you run to safety. When you're finally safe, you feel that you're safe away from the lion. What's going to happen? How do you feel? What are you going to feel? You'll feel happy, right? That you're safe. So that's another emotion. And then The moment you see the person that left the lion's cage open, you see him and someone tells you that that's the person who left the cage open, you definitely be angry with that person, right? So this can fear, emotions can happen as a chain of events that, triggers, certain actions that you feel, in order to, that instinctively happen within you. So now let's move on. There are different types of emotions. There are positive and then there are the negative types of emotions. So some of the positive emotions we feel are happiness, love, admiration, optimistic, gratitude, and confidence. And then the negative ones could be jealousy, pessimistic, sad, ingratitude, doubt, apathy, and so many more. So basically we have two types of emotions, the positive emotions and the negative emotions. So there are also factors that influence our emotions. So some of these factors could be our personality, the way, the personality type of a person affects, his emotions, weather conditions. So if someone loves, hot weather, he tends to be happier during the hot weather. And then with most of the decisions that you make might be because you're happy because of the weather condition. And stress level, social activities, our age, our gender, health conditions, all this affect our emotions. So moving on to emotional intelligence. Now we know what emotions are. So what do you think is emotional intelligence? Can you type in the chat box? What is emotional intelligence? Can you give me a word or a sentence? Okay, so if there is none from the participants, let me give you the textbook definition of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to identify, to use, understand, and manage emotions in positive ways, to communicate effectively, also empathize with others, overcome challenges, and resolve conflicts. So if you have a high emotional intelligence, you'll be able to recognize your own emotional state and the emotional state of others, and engage with people in a way that will tend to draw them to you. And you can use this knowledge or understanding of emotions to relate better with other people. And it leads to form, healthier relationships, achieve greater success at work, and lead even a more fulfilling life. So in simple terms, something that we can all remember, emotional intelligence is our ability to recognize and understand our emotions and use this understanding to manage ourselves and our relationships with others. That's the simple meaning of emotional intelligence. So what is the science behind emotional intelligence? So we need to understand how the brain works, right? So mind you, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know much. So the little I know, I'm going to share with you. So as you can see, the human brain is divided into three parts. So the lower part is the spinal cord, and this is where information comes to the information comes to the brain through the spinal cord. So of course, the spinal cord is like the transport system that brings all emotions, all informations, everything, your eyes, your hands. If you feel heat, it comes from the spinal cord. It relates information to the brain. And then that information travels through the limbic system to the upper part of the brain. That is where the brain used to think, the rational part of the brain. And what is in between is the limbic system. That is where emotions are. So if emotions are here, definitely if people will tend, our brains are designed to have like, we are wired to, respond using our limbic system. So basically, the moment you feel, you will want to react. The moment you feel the information coming through, before it passes the limbic system, the place where emotions are will tend to give information back. But by being emotionally intelligent, you will want to use the rational part of your brain. That means passing that information to think over it and know how to react to it. So an emotionally intelligent person uses this two-way, relationship, this two-way information feedback system. You feel, and then pass it over to the rational part of your brain to think over it, and then pass it over. So the more we use the rational part, the more it develops. And when it develops, it becomes part of you. And then the more it develops, the more you become emotionally intelligent. That means you are using the rational part of your brain to control your emotions. That's simply the science behind behind emotional intelligence. So there is this saying by Viktor Frankl, who says, he's a famous psychologist, and he was saying that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So that means it is very important, if we feel any kind of emotion or stimulus, we wait to think over it before we respond. So within that thinking lies our growth and our freedom. So we can choose to either act on it in a way that will benefit us, or act in a way that it will damage us. So that means it is very, very important to be emotionally intelligent, to use that, the rational part of the brain to assess information, to process it before, acting on it. So what are the components of emotional intelligence? So basically, there are two basic components: the personal competencies and the relational competencies. So the relational competencies, which is popularly termed as the social skills. So let's look at the personal competencies. So personal competencies have consist of self-awareness and self-regulation. So self-awareness focuses on how well you know yourself. So that is the understanding of yourself, looking inwards and assessing your emotions, gauging your skills, knowing your values, your work style, your personality, your leadership style. So all this, you need to, take a moment to constantly assess yourself based on these items, your emotions, your values, and your skill set. So by doing that, you have self-awareness. You're aware of yourself, and you cannot be aware of yourself. So you can't self-regulate without knowing yourself. So now moving to self-regulation is using these skills to manage your emotions and your actions. And then moving on to relational competencies, we have social awareness and then relationship management. So a relationship and social awareness is basically understanding the emotions, the values, the skills, the work style, the personality of others, you know. So it's just like the same items that you need to know about yourself, you need to also know about others, especially people you work with, people around you, your family, your peers, and the rest. So under social awareness, you need to ask yourself these questions. What are the emotions that others display? You constantly gauge them. What are the values that drive people around you? What skills does your team need to be successful? And then how does the people around you affect your productivity? So when you know all this, it will help you to manage a relationship with those people around you. So the knowledge about this will help you be able to communicate effectively with these people and will help you in building rapport with your colleagues and with your peers and everyone around you. So by having this social awareness and relationship management, if you have this, it is now said that you have social skills. So by looking at this in a more condensed form, you realize that basically self-awareness and self-management is under personal competency. So you see, self-awareness is what you see within you. And then self-management is what you do to regulate, to achieve personal competency. Also, social awareness is what you see in others, and relationship management is what you do to achieve social competency. So how do you do a SWOT analysis to help to guide you understand this competencies? Under self-awareness, you look at your ability to accurately perceive your own emotions. You also see that you are aware of your emotions as they happen, and also keep on top of how you tend to respond to specific situations and people. So these things are within you as something you can all see. And then what can you do? What you can do is your ability to use awareness of your emotions to stay flexible and positively direct your behaviors towards towards managing those emotions. Also managing your emotional reactions to all situations and people. So now, coming to social awareness, you need to be able to accurately pick up on emotions in other people. So be able to constantly, as people show emotions, you should be able to understand those emotions. You will understand what is really going on, and then understand what other people are thinking and what other people are feeling, even if you don't feel the same way. That's empathy. And then how do you manage your relationship with people to achieve those social competencies? Is your ability to use this awareness of emotions of others to manage interactions and also communicate effectively and also manage conflicts with people. So moving on, what does it look like to have high emotional intelligence and low emotional intelligence? How will you recognize people with high emotional intelligence? So mostly people with high emotional intelligence tend to say that they feel something, they feel sad, or they feel happy, or mostly they are not preoccupied with negative emotions. and most of their decisions are based on feelings and logic. And they talk about problems to find solutions, and they can be emotionally resilient. While people with low emotional intelligence tend to say, you always make me feel, not knowing that it is them that are feeling that way, not that person. So that's their lack of understanding of self-awareness. They are not aware of themselves. Their negative feelings dominate their life. They act without reasoning or logic. They hit out when there's a problem. So they don't help in solving those problems. They hit out, and then you always find them when you have finally gotten a solution. And they carry grudges, and they are unforgiving. So if you see that someone or you tend to feel this way, that means you have a very low emotional intelligence, and you need to work on your emotional intelligence. And if you feel that if you feel this, if you see this signs, of high emotional intelligence, that means you have high emotional intelligence, and then you can be able to, use your emotional intelligence to achieve success in life. So why is emotional intelligence important? Why is it gaining popularity? So probably you've seen this. Avoid mishires and hire the right candidates the first time. Emotional intelligence assessments to identify the best candidates and make your hiring faster, easier, and bias-free. I caught this from an advert from a company that provide, tests for candidates, tests for organizations that wants to hire, to recruit people. So that means emotional intelligence is actually very relevant to today's working environment, and a lot of employers are looking for people that have high emotional intelligence, not necessarily high IQ. So there has been a lot of research around emotional intelligence. I've mentioned earlier that Yale has conducted a research, and a lot of other universities and research institutes. Even WEF recently published a report that shows how emotional intelligence is very relevant to the workforce. So you see that people with high emotional intelligence are able to make better decisions irrespective of their IQ. Also, emotional intelligence is more than twice as predictive of performance than IQ. And it has been, published in many papers that 80 to 90% of professional competencies that differentiate top performance are related to emotional intelligence. And this is because they are better managers because of their outstanding social skills. And they are highly adaptive to complex and challenging situations. So you see, we've seen how very important emotional intelligence is. But how can we improve on our emotional intelligence? I will share with you 7 steps that you can use to improve your emotional intelligence. So one of these steps is reflect on your emotions. Constantly gauge yourself, understand yourself, know your capabilities, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, understand how you feel, understand the kind of emotions that trigger you, and then try to self-regulate. Try to think before you act. Then 2, ask others for their perspective about you. Constantly ask your peers, how do you think? How do you think I'm doing in regards to this decision I made? I want to make I made this decision, and this is the reason why. Ask about the perspective of others so that you can learn from those perspectives and then make corrections in the future. Then also be observant of your own emotions. Understand those emotions. As you're reacting to those emotions, take a minute to see how how those actions affect people around you. The fourth step is taking a pause. Take a moment to think before you speak, especially when people criticize you. Take those criticisms as a way of showing you what you're doing is wrong and you need to improve on yourself. Not take it as an insult, or someone is, trying to belittle you or something. Just take a pause, take a moment, and then think over it before reacting. Then explore the why. So that means you bridge the gap by taking someone else's perspective. So if someone else is doing something, understand why that person is doing that thing that he is doing, not jump into conclusion. That is the meaning of exploring the why. Not don't think that based on your thinking, based on your perspective, that this is what he meant by doing what he did, but put yourself in his shoes and think from his own point of view. So number 6, when criticized, don't take offense. Instead, ask what you can learn from it. And then number 7, continuously practice this 6 steps. Practice and practice and practice. And then on a final note, I want to share with you this excerpt from the book, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. He says, if your emotional abilities are not in hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you're not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are not going to get very far. Thank you very much. I hope you have learned something at least from this session. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Murtala. This has really been wonderful, and there's always something new to learn when someone talks about emotional intelligence and all, and social intelligence. It's something really, really very, very wide. It's almost impossible to cover everything, to know everything, and I think you tried so well to do justice to the whole thing within the short period of time you have. I think my key takeaways are, aside from the definition of emotional intelligence and all, is how one can actually be, emotionally intelligent, and the 6 steps you outline and all. That's my, key takeaway. And I think pretty much almost everything revolves around self-reflection and response optimization. As I said earlier, there's only so much you can control around circumstances and situations. Things do come up. You have very little to control. You have little control over, but then you can always control how you react, how you respond to everything. So, and I think within the course of your presentation, you also laid that foundation that artificial intelligence, emotional intelligence, and social intelligence, technically revolves around, response optimization. How do we respond to situations and things, circumstances that come up, within our environment. So thank you so much, Mara Murtala, for that wonderful presentation. I think we'll go straight to the Q&A session for the next few minutes that we have before we call it a day. So do we already have questions? Okay, please go ahead and share your questions if you have any in the chat box, and Mala Murtala will try to answer them as they come within the next few minutes that we have.
Yeah, so if you have any question, you can use the reactions tab and then raise a hand and then we unmute you and then you can ask the question. Or else you can also use the chat box and send your questions. We have very few minutes left. It's already 8 p.m. So I've seen a question. Is there a way to test our level of EI? Yes, there are a lot of EI tests that have been developed, a lot of skills. I can share some of those tests later. I have a link, and then a lot are being developed to test EI. Yes. Like,
You can go ahead and unmute yourself, please, if you want to ask any question. I think in about 2 or 3 minutes, we end this call. And just to add to the answers to that question that Mr. Murtala gave, I think one of the best ways to measure how much emotionally intelligent you are is to do a self-reflection. How do you react to events and things that happen around you? Within the course of the presentation, I was also able to learn that the brain has 2 to 3 parts. You have the rational brain and you have the emotional brain. The rational brain is where decisions as to right or wrong take place, whether an action is right or wrong, and that's the rational brain. And the emotional brain is where the emotions are. So when you act mostly out of emotions, you may not really be doing the right thing. So just imagine you're on the way and maybe someone did something on the way, you're driving and someone did something, very funny, maybe, or they dent your car or something like that. At that very moment, you'll be overwhelmed by emotion because you'll definitely be sad. You were driving, not breaking any rule or driving rule or so, but then someone comes and then they hit your car and then they dent it, and all of that. So you'll be overwhelmed by emotion. At that very point in time, if you react, if you act, maybe also by hitting their car or cussing them or something like that, you are actually reacting from the emotional brain. That may not really be the rational thing to do. So maybe if you take a moment, maybe a few seconds, to actually understand the situation, like why did he do that? Was he trying to was there a kid on the way that just jumped on the way and they were trying not to hit the person, and then an elderly person was trying to cross the road and then they tried not to hit the person and that was why they hit your car, or things like that. Like, you don't react. So you wait for a while, try to empathize, try to reason with them. So why are they doing this? Are they doing like, is it deliberate? Would someone just come and hit your car, on the way deliberately? If they are a rational human being, would you do that? So within that period, you wouldn't really, when you take a pause, when you pause for a while to reason with the person, to empathize with the other person, you are not really reacting from your emotional brain. That's from the rational brain, because the rational brain will say, okay, this is not right, try and reason with the person. So your journey towards becoming a very emotionally intelligent person comes down to you delaying how you react to situations and circumstances. Take a pause, take a deep breath, try to reason, try to understand, try to understand the situation, and try to empathize. If there's another person involved, if there's another party involved, try to put yourself in their shoes. Would you also do the same thing? Reason, and then that will make you take the best course of action.
Thank you, Ahmad. Also, I saw a question from the chat box. What books can we read to know more about emotional intelligence? So the best book that I will point you towards is the first book by Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. And also there is another book by the same person, Working with Emotional Intelligence. And then if you seek to learn more, there are top 10 articles written on the Harvard Business Review. So Harvard Business Review, top 10 articles on emotional intelligence. So you learn a lot from that.
Okay,
and then when I'm sharing the slides, I will share a couple of links that you can also use, and then the skill as well. So I will share the link, the slide, and then with the links and the skill.
Thank you so much, Mr. Murtala. It has been a really wonderful session. I think we don't have any more questions. So we thank everyone for coming. We know it's not a really very convenient time. So we're just testing to see what time works for people, but the project team and the monitoring and evaluation team are all here. They've taken note of the things we discussed at the beginning before the session actually started, and I will be sure to get back to everyone. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much, Murtala, for coming and for the wonderful presentation. And at this point, I want to wish everyone a good night. Bye-bye. See
Thank you for having me
in 2 weeks' time. Yeah, thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, just before we go, can we have a